Good morning, warriors. Hope you guys are doing well. This is March 19th. I was not going to probably do one this early on a Saturday morning, but I figured I'd do one because I saw an interesting video by Jordan Peterson, and I'll see if I can try to link it down below. But I want to kind of talk about that a little bit today. Today is March 19th, 2022. Hope you guys are having a great day. This is Vigor Warriors 2, looking to kind of provide information, give you guys some hope in trying to inspire you to keep going on your purpose and to continue to become more than just the 1% club, the 2% club, the 3% club, and so on. So please go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, do all those great things to help us continue in our fight, in our battle. It's growing. More people talking about it, so it's good. It's a good thing to continue talking about it, and maybe the truth will come out, and this blue matrix is being more exposed as we go along. So very, very good. All right, so there's an interesting type of video, and it's called "What is Really Evil?" I think the real meaning of evil, I think, is the name of it. I'll have to go find it and link it for you guys before I send this off. But he talks about a very interesting concept, and I think there's some truth in what he's saying here, which is why I kind of want to talk about it here. He's basically talking about that for us to really know life, we have to have experienced and know limitations and have limitations. And we have to experience negative things happening to us. We have to experience things that are not, always good for us. And we have to kind of see the difference between the two. And I think there's a lot of truth in that statement there. I think, as we've talked about before, you can't see the dark unless you know the light, right? And you can't see the light unless you've experienced the dark. And so the opposite extremes is usually what people go with. Now, he talks about examples from Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel in the Bible, which I think are very relevant, talking about the fact that until Adam actually ate of the apple and saw that he was naked, it was all symbolic of all the types of things when people go through that are limitations, that you can't do certain things. And if you can't do certain things, you strive to do those things, or you strive to better yourself. And so we have limitations. And because we have limitations, then we end up growing and continue to try. And hope and all these other things come out of the fact that we have limitations. So the evil one is a necessary evil. I guess you put it that way. And I think that's very, very interesting. Now, he also talks about the fact that if everybody had paradise, you wouldn't know the difference. So that is I'm not sure if I totally agree with that part of the concept. I think you can have paradise, but I think that you have to know what the evil one is doing. You have to know the evil part of it. And maybe that's where his other part is true, where you have to, at some point in your life, experience those type of things. I mean, it will take a great deal now. I'm at 653 days, and I think 178 monk mode days. At this point, it would take a great deal for me to actually go back to releasing again. Because I'm so far into it now that to me it's like second nature and thinking about it. Now, I've had 45 years of the opposite, so I am nowhere near out of the woods, because those things could come up any minute. But the thing is that I've experienced that for so long that I'm going back to the limitation part that he's talking about, knowing the limitation, seeing the evil part, and knowing the opposite. And I think that's a very interesting thing for human beings, because if they don't see the opposite, they grow up in an environment thinking this is the only way. And in a lot of ways, they're very naive and ignorant to what's really happening around them, because they've never known anything else. And so you can't really blame them necessarily. It's almost like you have people who don't believe in God, But if they haven't been brought up that way, it will take some kind of effort, some time of effort for God to put in situations in front of them that they actually believe. And it may be more harder because they don't basically have that belief system put into them through the parents. And sometimes when you have people who are very religious as a family, sometimes it takes the kids a lot longer because it is there, but they still don't believe in it. And it takes those type of events. It took me an event back when I was 17, 18 years old to basically come to Christ and be saved and understand all that. So it did take some effort for that to happen to me, even though I was brought up with CCD and different things like that, to be able to have those religious concepts. It wasn't until I was almost at the end of my line deciding, okay, I'm going to go ahead and end it, that I basically came to Christ and realized there's a whole new life. Now, it still took many years to get to the point where I was at now. I mean, I was 17 years old, and then I think I got married at 30. So you're talking about 13 years until I actually got married and found that Fountain of Youth book, and another 45 years of that. No, not 45 years, 35, whatever it is, 25 years. I'm sorry, 25 years after that, to actually get into the point where now I am actually looking at using some of those type of things. So when we see this type of stuff, we have to kind of realize that we're really kind of talking about knowing the good and evil part of things. And this is where he talks about it, and I think it's a very unique type of concept, realizing that we need to have limitations for us to be able to know the difference of right and wrong. This is why I think the Ten Commandments are a very important document, even from a religious and practical standpoint, because there are good things and bad things. Cain and Abel's a good example of, he talked about two people going in opposite directions, looking at life in two different ways. And I think that's the whole idea about what happens with your limitations. You're looking at life in a certain way, and that was predicated on some sort of behavior, something's happened to you, or some type of attitudes you've come up with through time. Now, how does it affect our retention journey? Well, of course, if you're in a situation where you've been brought up and nothing is wrong with any of this, well, you're going to continue doing that, and you don't see a problem with it. This is why a lot of people are really they'll get very upset with you and laugh it off and think it's just one of these other, conspiracy theory things that actually end up coming true 80% of the time, right? But the thing is that the truth is really somewhere in between all these type of things, and there is some truth in it, even though people may not want to see it because they haven't been brought up with it. They have no reference to it, and it ends up shaking their world, which we are seeing more and more now. With a lot of these people who are being red pilled, and they're at the point where they're seeing things in a whole different way, because basically they were kind of in many ways brainwashed, like a lot of people are doing with the blue matrix we've had all these years. And I think once again that's creating a limitation for people, saying you can't do these things, you need to look at life this way, and all these type of things. And I think that people are seeing that this is not a good thing for them, and especially when it comes to our retention journey, they don't really see the effects that it has, and there's really more effect on us, right? Lack of energy, focus, those type of things all come back to hurt us in a large way. And I think certainly it leads to depression, anxiety, those type of things as we focus on it more. So as you see this, I think there's some very valid points when it comes to what he's saying about evil. That in order for us to really kind of function, there has to be the presence of the evil one. And I think that's a very interesting point that he makes. I mean, we all try to strive and say, well, life would be good, if we had no evil in it. Well, it would be good for a while. There's no doubt. And I think paradise is a great thing. But human beings, the way human beings tend to be structured, and this is my opinion, they tend to look for those opposites. Now, they don't do it consciously, I don't believe. I think in most cases they're doing it unconsciously. But they're looking for those opposites to see the difference between the black and the white so they can focus on one or the other. And I think this is why we talk about ethical decisions on what people do from time to time, depending on the situation. A lot of it depends on how they see the world. And not that everybody sees the world either black or white, but they see the world in a certain way. And that dictates a lot of things they see. If they have their basis in Jesus or their God, then that's how they're going to go ahead and focus the way they look at things. If they don't, well, then they see things in a different manner, and all of a sudden now they're focusing on a different result or different behavior. And this is why it's very crucial for us to kind of understand that no matter what situation we're in, this whole journey, this whole retention plan really is something that we have to be very careful about. We have to kind of be careful to the point where if we don't see this as being something that is good for us, we need to make a change. And that's what kind of happened to me. I made a change because I knew that it was I wasn't getting what I wanted, the result I wanted. And now I'm getting a lot closer to the result I wanted because I had to make that decision, a lifestyle change. And I think that's something that we all have to kind of go back and look at. The 1% Club, all of you guys in the 1% Club, no, you realize that you have to make this a long-term type of thing. Like I did for 45 years, you can't just keep going back and forth and saying, okay, I'll do a 90 days here, I'll do something here. People will tell you that's the best way to go, but once again, what they're doing is denying the actual truth of, in my opinion, what human beings should be. And that's really more of a case of, even though you still have that energy inside of you, even though you are still attracted to people, even though you understand that you have that in you, you're now using it but for other means. You're not using it to just waste it. You're either going to have children with people, or you're going to go ahead and basically use it to achieve things and hopefully help mankind. And so this is really where it comes back down to the fact that it's important to keep your energy. It's important to recognize you have that energy, and it's also important to look at why what you're using it for. So people who are in an older bracket like myself, who's almost approaching 61, usually what happens is testosterone decreases in men. Well, a lot of that also has occurred because of, in my opinion, at least all these years that men have released energy when they're younger. I can't tell you. I just can't tell you how wonderful and great I feel. I mean, it's an undescribable feeling of this. Now, am I stressed? Of course, there's stressful situations occurring in my life all the time. A lot of times I'm going out to achieve things, try to push myself more, to do better things, and so you're going to get stressed out. But the stress level is so much different than it used to be. I even noticed that yes, I feel the stress to some level, but I also feel very strong. I feel that at my age that I can withstand stress and those type of things and not have huge problems with that. So when you look at this, I think that one of the keys is to kind of look at yourself and kind of see where you're at. And I think certainly the benefits so much outweigh, as many of you know, that it really should be a lifestyle change for you. Now, that's easier said than done, and I'm the last person to talk about that because it took me so long to get there. But I will say that the end is worth it, my friends. The end is worth you sacrificing those things. Now, you call it sacrificing, but here again, this is where the conditioning we've all been through comes in. If you're brought up in a society, which we have been, that sex is fun, sex is the right thing to do, men and women should be out there doing this all the time, then you believe this is a sacrifice. And that's really kind of interesting, because really, back there was a period of time where anything like that, thinking about that, was blasphemy. You can't do that. You can't talk about it. You shouldn't be involved in any of that kind of stuff. Not even the adultery part. It's just a matter of thinking about that stuff at all. And so you come a long way in society to become acceptable. And this is where the problem is. This is what happens. I don't believe any country, any dynasty really wanted to destroy themselves. I don't believe that's ever the case. I think that they continued going. But what happened was the limitations, the evil one, started seeping in to the success that people had, because they had success, and now they had success. They go into more of a greed mentality, and they want more and more and more. And this is where they get caught within that cage that talks about the evil one uses. The cage is sitting there, and there's some things, even if you're rich, there's some things that that happens to you that are not good. And so now you strive to do that, and you get yourself caught in situations where now you're addicted to something. This is why you see a lot of people who are wealthy, they get addicted to drugs and sex, and they get addicted to gambling, overeating, all kinds of stuff happens. And a lot of it happens because now they're well off, and so now they don't really have to strive for something. They don't have a limitation. They feel they can buy anything they want, and so now they fall into this type of habit. And it's pills and drugs, whatever it might be. So the thing is that this is where the limitations come into effect. So making a sacrifice, yes, it is if you base your life around, well, this is a normal type behavior. You need to make a sacrifice that you can't go ahead and just, release your energy anytime you want to. But back in a certain period of time, before dynasties fell apart, there was, really these underwritten rules that you should not be talking about this stuff. You should not be, dealing with this stuff. And it should be something that's, really forbidden, because it's not good for you. And so it's really kind of an interesting type dynamics, but you can see how all dynasties fall very easily, because they don't really even see it. And then by the time they see it, it's too late. People have kind of been brainwashed unknowingly, most of the cases. And I think most of us are brainwashed unknowingly, and not realizing what we have learned is just the wrong information, wrong thing. It's actually more hurtful than helpful. So I think it's very interesting, and I probably end up talking about this topic again a lot, but it's really more of the idea of these limitations that the evil one puts out there is actually a good thing for us in many ways, even though it may seem bad, and it may seem like, oh, well, you're struggling all the time and those things. This is why people, who, the Bible talks about it, the weak people are the ones that really are, going to heaven, because they experience all these limitations. They know the problems. They're striving to become better. They appreciate God. They see there is a God. See, I think this is what he's basically saying is that, and I'm not trying to put words in the mouth, but I think what he's basically saying, in my opinion, is that you don't know God unless you live in a life of limitations and realizing that God is, that God is good, because he's doing things that are good compared to what the evil one is doing. So I think certainly when we look at this whole situation, we know that there's certain things that happen to us that are going to be good and bad. And when these things happen, we have to be prepared to say, okay, we'll accept this, because you can't change it, of course, but let's do something about this, and let's go ahead and strive further. So interesting type video. I'll see if I can try to get the link below. And just wanted to kind of mention to you guys. So have a great day, my friends. And this is March 19th, 2022. And battle on.